that time as this southpaw duel will begin today. The Brewers are actually the best team in baseball when facing left-handed pitchers. Now, they're the best team in baseball in a lot of different statistics, but I think a couple of years ago, a lot of folks would have panicked about seeing a lefty. Well, the Brewers are 26-13 when facing a left-handed starter. Now, before we get into the lineups and talk about the breakdown of today's game, and of course, somebody on the other side, of course, Willy Adames back here in Milwaukee. We'll talk about him a little bit later on in the show, but roster moves to talk about here first and foremost. Joey Ortiz, he exited yesterday's game due to left hamstring discomfort. Well, he underwent an MRI, and doctors described to Pat Murphy that it was a low-grade strain, but a strain nonetheless, and Joey Ortiz has been placed on the 10-day injured list. In response for the active roster, the Brewers activated injured Jake Bauers. And I know what you're thinking, Dom, that's not a shortstop. You're right. But Jake Bauers has been on the IL since July, dealing with his shoulder impingement. Caught up with Jake earlier today. So I just feel like I can actually swing again. I feel like myself for the first time in a while this year. So he's very excited to be back and available for the Brewers lineup. For Joey Ortiz, when he talked to the press and talked about what was going on and what he was feeling, he expects this to be a short stay. In fact, the doctors agree as well. They think this is a lower grade strain and less of a concern than, say, the strain that Jackson Chourio suffered as well a few weeks ago. The point being is Joey's going to be down for a few days, and in the short term, the Brewers will use Andrew Monasterio as their shortstop. And then the question naturally follows, well, what about Bryce Terang? Why can't he just slide over to short? Well, in this situation where the Brewers understand Bryce's value as a second baseman, and they are fully aware of Monasterio's capabilities as a shortstop, and at the end of the day, they want to reward Monasterio for being ready and always having some sort of, presence when he's needed to do anything that they ask of him. He is ready to go. But furthermore, when it comes to the way that this infield aligns, it's a little easier to pinch hit Mona in a situation, as a shortstop, then you could slide Terang over or Durbin even over as well if need be. They've got two shortstops on this infield that could slide over, no big deal at all. But I think for the time being, the Brewers do expect Monasterio to get the majority of reps at short. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the starting lineups, starting with the home team, Milwaukee Brewers, again against the southpaw of the Bob Melvin-led San Francisco Giants. Carson Whisenhunt, the starter. The Giants are 61-67. Bryce Terang leading off. What an August he's had. We'll talk about that later as well. He's at second. William Contreras slides up to the 2 spot. He will be behind the plate. Christian Yelich DHing again. He's batting third. Andrew Vaughn will slide up to the 4th spot. He has been torching lefties as a Brewer. He's at first base. Sal Frelick will be the restart of the lineup, batting 5th. He is in right. Caleb Durbin also does really well against lefties, is the 3rd baseman. He's batting 6th. Isaac Collins will slide down to the 7th spot today for the Crew. He is in left. Brendan Lockridge gets his 2nd consecutive start. He is the center fielder today. And then rounding out the order is the aforementioned Andrew Monasterio, the shortstop. Once again for the Crew, Terang, Contreras, Yelich, the top third. The middle has Vaughn, Frelick, and Durbin. And the bottom third is Collins, Lockridge, Monasterio. For the Giants going up against the left-hander Jose Quintana, Elliot Ramos will lead things off. He is in left field. The trade-acquired Rafael Devers is hitting second, playing first base, but more on that in a moment about the Giants since getting Devers. Willy Adames, the old friend, hits third. He's got 20 bombs on the year. He is the shortstop. Batting cleanup, Wilmer Flores, DHing once again. He had a great series when the Brewers saw them in April. My, how times have changed since that series. Casey Schmidt, the 3rd baseman for the injured Matt Chapman. Schmidt is batting 5th. Young-Hoo Lee is in center field. He was on fire when the Brewers saw them last, and he has cooled off quite a bit since. Batting 7th is Luis Matos. He is out in right field for San Francisco. Christian Koss, speedster, plays second base. And then batting 9th is the catcher, Patrick Bailey, one of the best framers in the land. He will try to steal as many strikes as he can. Again, for the Giants, Ramos, Devers, Adames. The middle has Flores, Schmidt, and Huli. And then finally, Matos, Koss, and Bailey. So, you heard us talking about Willy Adames. We caught up with him for 10 good minutes today down in the visiting dugout. Good to see a smiling face on a fun weekend here at American Family Field. Reunions all around, and we hear from Willie Adames coming up next here on your home of the Brewers, 620 WTMJ.
Coming up, more Brewers Extra Innings on WTMJ.
This Saturday only from the historic Fox and Hound Supper Club. Enjoy 2 Chicken Alfredo pasta dinners for under $47. Yes, 2 dinners. Call and reserve your free dinner today. foxandhoundsrestaurant.com.
I've always believed that great service makes all the difference. At Waterstone Bank, it's more than just banking. It's personal. When I needed help choosing an account, my banker took the time to understand my needs and guided me through my options. Thanks to her advice, I can watch my money grow, knowing it's secure.
Welcome to your Waterstone Bank, where community and personal service come together. Member FDIC.
No one can predict how the goodness and grace of God will go to work in behalf of men.
It's Archives August with Dr. Oswald Hoffman and commentary from Michael Ziegler and Ryan Tinetti.
Gideon's problem is not that he doesn't have enough soldiers to go up against this foe. That says you've got too many.
I'm going to save you with 300 cowards.
Exactly.
This week on the Lutheran Hour.
Sunday mornings at 6:30 on WTMJ.
Politics, work, daily stressors. Let's take a break from all that and get centered, Christ-centered. I'm Pastor Tim Butker. Join me each week for Christian Crusaders, a broadcast that highlights the gospel, the good news of Jesus, and our belief in the authoritative Word of God. Christ-centered, gospel-oriented, Bible-based, Christian Crusaders. Please join us Sundays at 6 a.m. on WTMJ. We'd love to have you worship with us.
As the kiddos get ready to get back to school, you can find really great back-to-school savings at St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores. School supplies and some surprisingly cool clothing too. And teachers, you get an additional discount. Get the best back-to-school bargains at St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, and 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
Ooh, you're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Now, more of Brewers Warm-Up on WTMJ.
Welcome back. I'm Dom Catronio. We're going just past the bottom of the hour. Willie Adames is back in town. He is a big story right now. We'll hear from him a little bit later on in this segment, but we got to talk about the Brewers, and we got to talk about their offense right now because, yes, they lost 3 out of 5 against the Cubs, or the glass half full as they won 2 out of 5, and they had, 2 wire-to-wire wins with both Monday's first game and then yesterday's finale, and they remain 7 games clear of those Chicago Cubs as play starts today. So when you take stock of everything, there's going to be some late nights because right now the Cubs are out west, taking on the Angels. Then they'll head up north on the California coast and face these San Francisco Giants, and they will continue that road trip with a visit to the Colorado Rockies. So there is going to be some stressful times. In fact, I believe each of their next 8 opponents are currently under 500 for the Cubs. If you want to start scoreboard watching, and we've been doing it really for quite a while now, the easiest way to not worry about scoreboard watching is just win the games in front of you. And the Brewers can finish 500 the rest of the year and still set a franchise record for wins. 97 wins would be a new high water mark. If they get 20 out of these final 34 as a win, that is the first 100-win season in the history of the Milwaukee Brewers and the Seattle Pilots, of course. And part of the reason for that is their offense as of late. And we keep noting this because I saw a segment today from the very talented Tom Verducci of MLB Now and MLB Network, former SI and everything when it comes into that. When you look at the team stats with just specifically home runs, and he compared that the teams in the top 5 for home runs, each of the last 5 World Series champions have been in the top 5 for regular season home runs. I understand that. I get where people are coming from. But when you do that first line of demarcation of May 25th, when you look at some of the rate stats and look at what the Brewers have been able to do since May 25th, they have the 3rd best slugging percentage, but that doesn't tell you the whole story. They have the 2nd best WRC plus in Major League Baseball. They lead the National League in virtually all offensive categories except for some of the counting stats. So when you look at home runs for the National League, it starts with the New York Mets with 113. Then you've got the Dodgers with 109. Then you've got the Diamondbacks with 105. The Phillies at 99. The Cubs at 98. Then you go all the way down. There are those Milwaukee Brewers at 91. Now, you're not talking about 113, but 91 and 99, 98, that's not a huge difference there for the team in fifth and the team in fourth. They're not that far off in their division, but furthermore, or in their league, I should say. But the Brewers have a great offense that is dynamic. Yes, they've slowed down on the bases as of late, but they are a team that refuses to strike out. The only team in the National League that strikes out less than them is the San Diego Padres, but even the Padres have less power than the Brewers. It's been a weird year for them in San Diego about the lack of getting the home run ball, but yet people are already declaring the Padres as a legitimate World Series contender. So that's where you miss me talking about this offense. And all of this comes up to say, all we were talking about all season, all offseason anyways, how are the Brewers going to replace Willy Adames and all of his power and all what he was able to do as a Brewer? Well, I brought this up before, but I'll bring it up again here on this program, that when you look at the season through 128 games last year versus 128 games this year, right? The Brewers have hit 136 home runs this year, and they have scored 657 runs. Last year, when you split that by game 128, so keeping things in line with where the team was at that point of the season, the Brewers had fewer runs scored by 40. They were at 614, and they only had 3 more homers than the Brewers. So it's a pretty similar offense when it comes to power from a season ago, but every rate stat is better. Batting average, on-base, slugging, OPS, all of that is better. So I'm really big fan of this offense that the Brewers have rolling out right now. On the Willy Adames front, though, man, it was good to see him today and just catch up with him. He's got a big smile on his face, met with the local media, had a good time, and, just talking stories, talking ball, talking about his teammates, talking about Bryce Terang suddenly hitting 8 home runs here in the month of August. You got to ask him about that a little bit. But as he prepares for this ovation today, and as he prepares for, the moments of reflection that will happen when he is in that box for the first time as an opponent, he didn't want to get ahead of himself about the reaction that he expects or what he thinks he's going to do, but he loved every second of Milwaukee, and just the way that it all started is the reason why he was able to succeed so strongly. Here's what he said about his connection to the city of Milwaukee.
I feel like even the first year I got here, they welcomed me like I was part of them. Like I came up with the league, with the team, and they embraced me since day one. They gave me love since day one, and they never stopped doing it. Even when I had a bad year in 23, they still loved me. They still gave me love and still supported me. And, that's what makes, I feel like that made the relationship, being special because, I was giving the love back. But it feels like since day one, they embraced me and loved me. And, I try to do the same back to them.
Yeah, this is obviously a two-way street. Both the fans loved Willy and Willy loved the fans, and he's somebody that thrives off that sort of energy, and he will experience it here tonight. More from Willy in a little bit, talking about Bob Uecker. We'll have more to talk about with Ueck and with this weekend and what to prepare for as far as the celebration and everything that's going to be popping up around the ballpark here. You may notice a couple of curtains walking around the ballpark covering some of the Uecker fixtures. More on that to come on Sunday. It is Bob Uecker weekend, and even Bob Melvin, the manager of the Giants, talked about it today in his media scrum, saying just what an honor it is to be able to experience something like that with all the baseball dignitaries. And, of course, fellow Hall of Fame voice John Miller is here calling the games on KNBR this week. Of course, Fort C. Frick Award winner himself, along with Bob Uecker. Now, Bob, as he said in that speech, he still thinks he could have got in as a player. Oh, Bob, we miss you dearly. But we'll hear from Willy about Bob Uecker coming up next and give you all the details you need to know for Sunday after this on 620 WTMJ.
This is Al Feckler at Cannon & Dunphy. Call me old school, but I have such great memories of growing up in Milwaukee, going to ball games at County Stadium, cruising on Highway 100, even seeing Cannon & Dunphy commercials as a kid. That's because for over 40 years, Cannon & Dunphy has been leveling the playing field against big corporations and insurance companies so people like you, people I grew up with in Milwaukee, could get the justice they deserve. I guess I like to call that old school justice. If you're injured, call the team at Cannon & Dunphy.
It's there all day, and it never goes away. I hate pain. It robs us of so much. But if you take action today, your pain could be gone tomorrow. Because at Rejuvenex, we harness the power of Toradol and hyaluronic acid to calm the inflammation and cushion joints. Rejuvenex treatments are safe, they're FDA approved, and in most cases, insurance, including Medicare and Medicaid, pays for them. At as low as $65 per injection per joint, our treatments are affordable. It's not a gimmick. It's pharmacological medicine administered in office in a simple and convenient manner. And with it, our patients have been able to avoid risky surgery and begin to stop the onset of arthritis. I'm Rejuvenex founder Richard Salinas, and here we've made pain treatment as easy and affordable as it can be. Go to rejuvenex.com to request your free pain evaluation.
It's Gina Della. You've heard me define what makes Pella Windows and Doors different. Let me introduce you to the woman behind the billboards, commercials, and share my extraordinary journey of resilience, reinvention, and shattering glass ceilings every Saturday morning at 6:30 on 620 WTMJ and anywhere you stream podcasts for What's the Difference with Gina Della to discuss business coaching across all industries, featuring successful executives, entrepreneurs, and mentors along the way. This is a story you won't want to miss.
Back to Brewers Warm-Up on WTMJ.
All right, our last segment here as the On Deck Show built by Menards is coming up next. Jeff Levering and Lane Grindle on the call here on 620 WTMJ. The Brewers getting ready for the Giants, the first of 3 this weekend. Now, we got to talk a little bit about Bryce Terang because all the numbers here in the month of August are absolutely gaudy, changing out his season outlook. In the month of August, he's hitting .366 with an OPS that's nearly 1,200, 8 homers. He only had 6 coming into the month. Also 6 doubles to go with that, a bunch of hard hits. He's not walking because he's hitting the ball over the fence with a .789 slug to lead the National League. And we talked about it plenty down at Wrigley with him, just about, I'm not trying to hit homers, I'm just trying to hit the ball hard. And right now, the ball is backspinning and getting out. I'm catching it out front. I'm catching it where I'm supposed to, but I also still have the ability to catch it the other way. And that's when I was looking a little bit deeper into his splits, and I realized what makes him such a dynamic hitter. You know, generally, when you're behind in the count, you're in danger. And the pitcher obviously has an advantage just by looking at the numbers, but when you dive a little bit deeper, and common sense will tell you, yeah, you don't want to be behind in the count. But when you have perspective on league average, when the pitcher is ahead, league batting average is .202 with a .519 OPS. So put those in your brain. .202 and .519 when the pitcher is ahead. Bryce Terang, when the pitcher's ahead, is hitting .275, so virtually 75 points better, and his OPS is .653, which is 150 points better. I know .653 doesn't sound impressive, but when you really sit down and think about it, your back is against the wall. He's even got 4 homers when he's behind in the count. He's got 5 doubles when he's behind in the count. He's somebody that is able to be dynamic depending on the situation. Or look at runners in scoring position, a .367 batting average on the season with runners in scoring position, one of the leaders in Major League Baseball. And then here in the month of August, the Brewers have obviously been fantastic this month, but you look at the top 3 qualified hitters with runners in scoring position for the Brewers. Joey Ortiz hitting .458 with runners in scoring position this month. Christian Yelich hitting .429 with runners in scoring position this month. And Bryce Terang hitting .421 this month. So, again, I know we talk about home runs a lot, but when you're getting gaudy numbers like this, and I know these numbers will come back down in the playoffs, that's what makes me excited. That if you don't hit homers, you got to do something else, and this is the something else that the Brewers do. So this weekend is going to be a lot of celebration at American Family Field. Tomorrow, John Axford being added to the Wall of Honor. We'll hear from the Axeman on tomorrow's Brewers warm-up. He's getting honored. He's going to have a first pitch. He's going to have a moment with the fans as well. So that will be fun to listen to here on WTMJ as well. And then on Sunday, in case you're wondering if you can't make it to the ballpark, if you need to find a way to watch it or listen to it, we will carry it live here on 620 WTMJ from start to finish. I will be leading you into the program, and then we will kick it down to Bob Costas, who will be starting the ceremony. We are encouraging fans to be in their seats by 12:15 on Sunday and get ready for the full celebration of life for the one, the only Bob Uecker. Then we'll also have the entire game, of course, but we'll also have plenty of interviews and reaction from the guys after that one, too, because it is going to be such an emotional day for everybody. And, you know, it was an emotional departure for Willy Adames to say goodbye to Bob Uecker in last year's playoffs, of course, knowing the writing was on the wall that Willie was not going to be back with the Brewers this year. And we caught up with Willie during spring training about, you know, Bob and everything, that it was still pretty fresh at that time, but now he can look back and remember some of the good times that he had with Bob Uecker. And not just himself and Bob Uecker, but Willie explains Bob Uecker and Willie's dad was quite the connection.
I don't know, man. It feels like every day was an unbelievable moment with him. I mean, his energy was insane, and it was just like unbelievable every day. But I don't know, maybe like when he's like hanging out with my dad every time, and I was like, how you guys communicate? Like, how you guys talk to each other? How you guys like each other so much? You know, they was just like, it's just like it's special. They had a really good relationship, so I think that made me like appreciate him more, because like he was, you know, embraced my family even though they didn't speak the same language. They send each other's gift, and I was like, how you guys like each other so much? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. But obviously, he was that kind of person.
He was great, and we all know that, but Willie and Bob had a great relationship. And one of the things, you know, kind of bring you into the clubhouse here, you know, Bob loved, you know, hanging out with the players. He always had his little spot in the corner of the clubhouse that guys would come in and talk shop with Uke for over those years. But one of my favorite things is that him and Willie always had a handshake with everybody, right? And his handshake with Bob was in tribute to Bob's military service, being a paratrooper, and that he trained for it, and obviously was not a paratrooper, but that they shake hands, salute, and then like have the hands fall down like as if they're, you know, paratrooping out of a plane. So pretty funny. And he understood the relationship, how important that was here in the city of Milwaukee. You'll hear more from Willy Adames from Lane Grindle on the other side, as he has him as a pregame guest today here on the On Deck Show built by Menards. That's coming up in just a moment. So to get you set and ready to go, if the playoffs started tomorrow, here is what the standings would look like. The Brewers are still the 1 seed here in the National League. They currently have that by 5 in the loss column over the Philadelphia Phillies. And mind you, they also have the current season series. They meet again in 2 weeks. The Brewers and the Phillies would be the 1 and 2 seeds, thus them getting byes. The Dodgers would be in the wild card round. They would be hosting the New York Mets for a best of 3. And the Cubs would be hosting the San Diego Padres for a best of 3. And by the way, the Dodgers and Padres meet again this weekend. San Diego entering play 1 game back, but they do not have the tiebreaker. All right, that is going to do it for Brewers warm-up today. We'll be back tomorrow as well, pregame at 5 o'clock, talking about John Axford as well. Again, it'll be Jeff Levering and Lane Grindle on the other side of the break as we get you ready for Brewers and Giants on 620 WTMJ.
WTMJ's Vince Vitrano talking with Dr. Mike Nolte at Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. Doc, a lot of people are hesitant to visit a surgeon for spine care.